On a lovely Tuesday, the madness starts tonight in less than 40 minutes in Dayton, Ohio. Wagner will take the floor against Howard for the right to take on North Carolina in the West region on Thursday. As Brent Musburger said in that open, that is Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. We are fired up. The return of confidence picks like we did all football season long. We will do that with the East region and the West region today. We'll do those picks in the final hour of the program. We'll go through the brackets, up some upset picks. You know the deal. It's here, baby. Madness is here. We got some NBA games tonight. We'll have our best bets bottom of the hour. And by the way, streaming right now for free on YouTube, youtube.com/VSiN Live. We had great interaction on our bracket show on Sunday. So let's keep it going. If you guys want to chime in, let us know your best bets. YouTube.com/VSiN Live. You can stream it for free at this first hour of the program. So best bets coming up bottom of the hour. JVT, Wagner catching 3 against Howard. The champs of the NEC versus the champs of the MEAC. They get it going. And then late night, the Mountain West versus the ACC. Colorado State laying 2.5 against Virginia. We will talk to the voice of the Colorado State Rams, Brian Roth, here in just a little bit. Any bets? We'll get to our best bets, but of these two games that jumped out to you initially?
Now that I have some confidence that one Isaiah Stevens is healthy, not going to have the tape on the calf, I went Colorado -2. I think it's still playable 2.5, but I think when you look at Colorado State, the ability for Colorado State to have the best player on the floor, I think have a higher floor and ceiling offensively, yes, against a very, very good defense. But Colorado State themselves defensively have actually been very, very good and one of the better ones in conference play, too. So when you talk about taking on a Virginia team whose floor is extremely low, I do think that with the best player on the floor, with the upside that this offense can bring, the ability to shoot, the ability to score, get to the basket, and crack, I think, this Virginia defense with Colorado State. So with the market there, up to 2.5, I think 2.5 still playable, late 2 myself. So let's go Rams later tonight.
Ooh. There's part of me just out of principle, JVT, that wants to take Virginia. Not because I like watching them or think they're worthy of it. It's the old everybody thinks they should be home situation. Very analytically sound to bet that way. But
that's the wrong way.
I hope so. I hope Colorado State. We are a Mountain West pro show. So I hope Colorado State and your bet does come home tonight. The Ken Pom projection of this game, 61-59. The total in this game, incredibly low. Actually has been bet up, believe it or not. 121. It was opening, I believe, when we were on the betting the bracket program Sunday night. I want to say 118.5 is what we opened up. Yep. So we've moved this to the over 2.5 points.
We haven't.
We have not bet it. The market has moved 2.5 points in this one. Wagner and Howard, I'll just say this. These 16 versus 16 games are, very unique, very tricky, I always feel like, to handicap. Howard is, based off the odds, the better team in this spot. Very poor defensively. The one thing I'll note about this Howard team is they have a grown man playing for them. Seth Towns started his college basketball career in 2017 for Harvard, played 2 seasons, took some time off, came back, played a year for Ohio State, took more time off, and now he is going to be wrapping up his collegiate career maybe tonight, maybe on Thursday. But fun note there for Howard. I believe he will turn 27 later on coming up here. So Seth Towns, maybe the name to know, 6'9", 230 pounds. Pretty solid player there for Howard. What are you laughing at?
Come on, man. It's like the guy at the rec league. You know what I mean? Like taking it a little too seriously. Don't you look around like, bro, just stop playing. Like, come on. There's gonna be like a 19, 20-year-old sitting there going up and it's like, what are we doing?
Had 16 points in the MEAC championship, did Seth Towns. Of course, Howard was in the NCAA tournament just a year ago, lost to Kansas in the first round. They were the 4 seed in the MEAC.
Stetson Bennett of college basketball. Huh?
Hey, multiple national champions, Stetson Bennett to you, sir. Wagner out of the NEC, which rates as the worst conference in college basketball. Not a very aesthetically pleasing offense, 334th in offensive efficiency. Another slow team as well. One thing to note about Wagner, they defend the 3 very well, 10th in the country in defending the 3. So if anything, I would probably just take the points, but I'm not going to get involved. We'll watch it, see if there's an in-game angle to look at, but that game coming up in less than an hour, Wagner and Howard JVT as the Howard Bison laying 3. A little bit of movement towards Wagner, though. The Hooks got scooped up earlier this week.
Yes, they did. And no real, like you said, no real insight here. I would say that Howard, one of the things I would look out for is Wagner's not really good at getting the free throw line at all, one of the worst teams in the country. But on the other end, Howard actually does have an issue in putting teams to the free throw line, 311th in the country in opponent free throw rate. So if you're going to get aggressive, trying to force turnovers, whatever it is defensively, and you guard a little too aggressively, you can put another team on the free throw line with some frequency, and a team that's very bad at that would welcome it very much so. So it'll be very interesting to see that dynamic if Howard is going to put their opponent on the free throw line here tonight.
Speaking of the free throw line, Virginia, if you are backing the Cavaliers tonight, just know not only is it going to be painful because of the style of basketball that they play at the snail's pace, they suck on the free throw line. I know that is maybe not a proper analytical term, but it's factual. 63.7% from the line. They are one of the worst three-point shooting team or free throw shooting teams in the country. They could shoot the 3 well, but they cannot make free throws well. 63.7%. So something to keep in the back of your mind if you're looking to back Virginia. We just think back to Sunday, JVT, and Brown, who was this close to making the NCAA tournament, missed a couple of free throws, left the door open for Yale. So Virginia trying to close things out if they do have the lead. Be a little bit worrisome there with the free throw line as they are stinky on the free throw line, 63.7%.
So bad on offense, man.
It is not great.
They shoot about 56% at the rim. That's bad. Like a shot at within 4 feet should not be a coin flip.
I just, and we'll talk to Brian Roth here shortly, but the thing about Colorado State and this Isaiah Stevens injury is he just looked so off. Now, the second half,
more aggressive.
Started a little warm up, a little aggressive. That first half, and you were sitting there courtside, I was up in the seats. It looked like he didn't want to be on the floor against New Mexico. It was a Friday night, so you've got from Friday to Tuesday to get prepared and try to get that calf ready. But that would be my biggest concern here with this Colorado State team. If Isaiah Stevens is not healthy, and we've seen Isaiah Stevens at times just put this team on his back, you look at, different games, the Air Force game just recently in the Mountain West tournament, had 15 points, wasn't amazing against Nevada, but there have been moments this year where he will single-handedly kind of put a team on his back. If he's not healthy, that would concern me about laying the points with Colorado State.
Yeah, I do think, too, we should give New Mexico some credit. Watching them in that game, they were doing a lot. Like, whenever he was running the pick and roll, they were sending 2 guys at him, and they were forcing him to get the ball out of his hands. And that was part of the reason. Not only are you injured, but you're constantly facing 2 guys, so you're going to get rid of the ball a little bit. Now, the assist totals weren't there. Generally, like to see that go up if they're going to be sending doubles at you. So that had something to do with it. But what you saw a little bit more of the second half, and what you're hoping you're going to see here a little bit, is not only the aggressiveness, but the different ways he did it. Like, the first half, it was just, all right, high pick and roll, let's just see what happens. Second half, it was posting guys up. It was doing different things with his game and trying to say, I guess, like, all right, let's just push through this calf and see what's going to happen. So, again, at practice the other day, we'll talk about this later, didn't have the calf tape, so you would assume that he's going to be ready to go because, as you mentioned, I was on the sidelines. That thing was taped up. So the fact that it's not, you would assume after some time off that he's going to be healthy here and ready to go against this team in Virginia.
All right, best bets coming up, bottom of the hour. Brian Roth here momentarily. I almost want to just randomly point to games and get some thoughts on that. Just I wish we had like a wheel that we could just spin and randomly hit on some games. But I want to hit on as many games as possible. I want to look at some of the regions, some of the double-digit seeds that we think can make a little bit of a run. But the winner of this UVA game tonight moves on to play Texas. Looking at the bottom quadrant of the Midwest region, so Virginia, Colorado State will play Texas the 7-10 on March 21st, this Thursday. When you look at the bottom portion of this quadrant, South Carolina, Oregon, Creighton, Akron, Tennessee, St. Peter's, of those 3 games, and if you want to include in Texas, JVT. Which game intrigues you the most from a betting standpoint?
I think it's South Carolina and Oregon, only in that Oregon really turned things around in the Pac-12 conference tournament. And you would look at that and go, hey, man, this was one of the worst defenses in the Pac-12. Now, all of a sudden, you're going out there and you're limiting opponents on a neutral court to well under a point per possession, and you're handling these guys pretty well. The problem that I have with that is, if you actually look, you can make the argument that Oregon got a little lucky in a neutral court setting. Their last three opponents, 5 of 21 from 3, 5 of 19 from 3, 7 of 22 from 3. There's three-point shooting. There's a randomness to it at times. And, of course, when you get a bad defensive team that has a short sample size of good defensive success, then you're like, I feel like that's not really sustainable. So are we overvaluing this run that Oregon has had? Because a larger sample size tells me they stink, to use your term, on defense. And I don't think that I'm going to buy into 3 games of a turnaround here for Oregon, given how bad it got during conference play.
South Carolina, 23-10 ATS this season, one of the best cover teams. However, when they lose, they can lose big. They lost to Alabama by 27, Auburn by 40, and Auburn again by 31 in the SEC tournament. Oregon catching 1 against South Carolina, who, per the metrics, the worst 6 seed out there, sitting at number 49 in KenPom. Is Isaiah Stevens healthy? What do we expect tonight from Colorado State UVA? Brian Roth, voice of the Rams, next.
This is VSiN PrimeTime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Get ready to dominate your brackets, folks. Turn your picks into profits this tournament with the VSiN Pro March Mania Betting Guide. It is out now. Check it out. Inside, you're going to get expert strategies, insider tips, in-depth analysis. They're going to give you an edge. From underdog upsets, championship predictions, Betting Guide's going to have a lot. Brackets from hosts and guests, NCAA tournament betting trends, and, of course, best bets for every round of the tournament. Don't miss out. Download the VSiN Pro March Mania Betting Guide today. VSiN.com/madness. That's VSIN.com/madness. My Final Four in the guide: Iowa State, Houston, New Mexico, and Tennessee.
Oh, I am rolling with Auburn, Baylor, Houston, and Purdue. We will get into all our picks in just a little bit, but we got games tonight. First up in the first 4, Howard versus Wagner. Tip-off around 6:40 Eastern time in Dayton, Ohio. And then Colorado State from the Mountain West and Virginia of the ACC. And to help us break it down, we are joined by the voice of Colorado State, Brian Roth, who joins us on a progressive guest line. Game scheduled to tip off shortly after 9 o'clock Eastern there in Dayton, Ohio. We'll start with what we were just talking about, Brian. Both JVT and I were at Thomas and Mack last Friday evening, and we saw Isaiah Stevens, Colorado State's best player, look a bit hampered with a calf injury. How does he look, and what do you expect from the Rams guard tonight from a health standpoint?
Yeah, so I think Isaiah Stevens is going to be just fine going into tonight's game. And yeah, the calf is something that's kind of been bothering him a little bit as the year has gone along. He's always worn a little bit of some tape on that thing, but he tweaked it right at the end of the first half against New Mexico. And I think it was pretty clear in the second half that he just wasn't quite the Isaiah Stevens that we have seen for 5 years at Colorado State. But he's going to be fine. Talking to the coaching staff and head coach Nico Medved watching some of the shoot-arounds here in Dayton, and he is showing no ill effects from that. So I expect Isaiah Stevens to be 100% going into tonight's game.
So, big picture here with Isaiah Stevens and this unit as a whole. Virginia's offense stinks. We can get into that, but still one of the best defenses in the country. How do you think the Rams match up here? What can they do well against the Cavaliers' defense?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that Colorado State is good at is playing in the half-court game. And, you know, you looked at the KenPom numbers, and while they're not as good as they were maybe back in mid-January, Colorado State is still a very efficient offense, and they're really, really hard to guard. They have several different guys that can score. They can hurt you inside. They can hurt you outside. So, you know, as head coach Nico Medved was talking to his team earlier today, said, look, just because Virginia is one of the best defensive teams in the nation doesn't mean we're going to change what we do. We're going to run our offense. Now, The possessions are going to be more limited tonight. It's not going to be a high-scoring game. At least nobody thinks it will be. And, that'll be that. But he said, look, we're going to run our stuff. And he goes, Virginia on their side, they're going to be looking at us saying, wow, this is an efficient motion offense with a lot of backdoor cuts. It's something we haven't seen a lot here this year. But at the same time, Virginia is telling their guys, but we're going to be exactly who we've been through 33, 34 games of the season. So, which one of those two things is going to win out tonight will be very interesting. On the flip side, let me say this, Colorado State has been really good defensively this year when perhaps they weren't supposed to be. And, they've been a top 30 defensive team too this season.
We're talking to Brian Roth, who is the voice of Colorado State. Will be courtside there in Dayton, Ohio, as Colorado State plays Virginia later on this evening. He joins us on our progressive guest line. Taking a step back, we spent, and our friend here on the show, BJ Rains, does a great job covering Boise State, but he spent a lot of time this week frustrated with the decision by the committee to send Boise State to Dayton. And I'm curious, Brian, the Mountain West, for the most part, was relatively underseeded, maybe outside of San Diego State. And then you look at Virginia, and they were a team that nobody wanted to see in the field of 68. What was the reaction from this Colorado State team when they found out on Sunday that they would be headed to Dayton? And do you expect that to be an issue at all? Were they all systems go? Were they buttoned up? I'm just curious the reaction on Sunday when they found out they'd be headed to the first four.
Well, there was a selection party on campus for the Colorado State basketball team, and we're all sitting around watching it. And when Boise State came up in that play-in game against Colorado, I think it kind of took everybody's breath away because it was pretty clear at that point the selection committee was going to give the Mountain West Conference zero respect. And the selection committee not only just taking this year into account, but also looking back and taking into other years into account, clearly. I mean, San Diego State got a great seed because they made a run to the national championship game last year. The other teams in the Mountain West Conference didn't get great seeds because they haven't done anything in the conference tournament. It was clear that the Mountain West Conference was going to be seeded lower after we saw Boise. And then when the Rams came up, I think it was like, oh, okay, we're in a play-in game too. And I think there was a little bit of shock that permeated through the room there. But, Nico Medved quickly gathered his troops and said, look, guys, do you know how hard it is to become an at-large team in the NCAA, especially from a non-Power 5 conference? It's hard. And we are in. That's all we wanted to do at the start of the year. And so I think they're using this as motivation. I really do. And Nico Medved's pretty sneaky like that sometimes when it comes to motivating his basketball team. And, I think they're looking at this like, well, you know what? The selection committee doesn't think much of our conference. I don't think much of us, despite our resume, despite 6 quad 1 wins, despite blasting Creighton on a neutral court, beating Colorado, non-conference games, then you know what? We're going to have to go out and prove it. And so they're using that as extra motivation. And make no doubt, yes, a little bit of shock right initially, which is human nature, but this team is going to be geared up, I think, and ready to go tonight.
Brian, if the Rams win today, who's the player outside of Isaiah Stevens that we'll learn about tonight?
Well, Nick Clifford is a guy who, when he plays well, Colorado State plays well. He's a transfer from Colorado, 6'6", really long player, and probably the most athletic of all the players on the team. He's the best defensive player on the team, got a few Defensive Player of the Year votes in the Mountain West Conference, and is the best NBA prospect on the Colorado State roster. So, Nick Clifford, when he's been good this year, Colorado State's been really good. When he hasn't been good, in a particular scoring the ball on Friday night in the semifinals of the Mountain West Conference tournament against New Mexico, he didn't have a single point in the first half. And Colorado State was down by 8 and went 2 of 10 from the floor, and CSU just didn't play very well. And so, obviously Isaiah Stevens is going to have to play well. He's going up against the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, so that might neutralize him a bit. So you need other guys, and Nick Clifford's the guy, to me, is going to be the one that is going to have to really rise up. And if he can play one of his best games of the year, I think Colorado State can win this game.
Before I let you run, Brian Roth joining us, the voice of Colorado State. Last time Colorado State was in the NCAA tournament, they were a 6 seed against Michigan, and they were knocked out, lost by double digits. Isaiah Stevens was on that roster. What did this team learn from that loss, in your opinion? And what do you think Nico Medved would tweak from 2 years ago to tonight to ensure that they didn't come up on another losing end?
Well, first off, I'd say this: that was a bad matchup for Colorado State last year or 2 years ago, because that was a Michigan team that had gone to the Elite Eight the year before, was struggled early in the season, made a run at the end of the year, and went to a Sweet 16 after beating Colorado State. They were good, and at the end of the game, they wore down Colorado State with their size. Look, I don't think CSU is going to change anything from what they've done all season long, but Virginia, doesn't have a 7-footer in the middle, right? They don't have some of the other pieces that Michigan team had. So, when you look at it from that point of view, I don't think Virginia is nearly as good as the team that Michigan was. But Colorado State's going to have to come out and play well under the bright lights of an NCAA tournament. And, they did play well against Michigan. They were up by as many as 15 in that game 2 years ago, and then again got wore down as the game went on. So it's not like Colorado State came out in that game 2 years ago and just laid an egg and was nervous and shell-shocked, but blinded by the lights. They played well, just in the end didn't have enough in the tank.
Brian, great stuff. Have a great call tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tim.
There he is, Brian Roth, voice of Colorado State. It's Jonathan Von
Yeah, you guys are
Tobel
humble.
as
I'm
well.
just playing.
That's my guy. He joined us on our progressive guest line there. So, look, you're going to get a little shaded positivity from the voice of a particular institution, but you are laying it with the Colorado State Rams.
Yeah, let's do it.
Did that make you feel a little better?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I think he's right about, obviously, everything that he's pointed out here. Clifford being an absolutely awesome forward on the floor as well that we're going to, I think, see a pretty good game from, too. And to me, he brought up the most important point. Just twice in conference play, Colorado State has allowed 1.2 points per possession or more. Just twice. Like, they have not had bad defensive days. This is a team that's pretty underrated on that side of the floor.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. Our best bets coming up at the bottom of the hour. VSiN, or youtube.com/VSiN Live. We are streaming for free on there. We will have our thoughts on the first four games tonight. And also, we each handed out some plays in our March Mania guide. We'll talk about those as well for our best bet portion of the program. It's VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Make sure you get your annual subscription. Yeah, be a VSiN Pro for a full year for only $199. All you got to do, use your promo code PRIME at PRIME. At VSiN.com/subscribe. Pro subscribers get everything we do. You get access to daily best bets, the betting splits with data courtesy of DraftKings. March Mania betting guides out now. You get that too, and the write-ups in every single sport every single day. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code PRIME. Annual sub for less than $200.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. You can follow him on Twitter at JVT. I'm at one Tim Murray. The madness starts in 10 minutes. Figure out where True TV is, folks. It's that time-honored tradition. Figure it out. You did not like my joke, huh?
I mean, we make it every year.
We do.
And then with like YouTube TV and stuff, you don't have to find channels anymore.
Well, hopefully you just are watching VSiN. And I wish you could do the dual box with VSiN sound up and
I was lied to.
the first four game.
I was told that I could create.
You can.
You can, but they still limit your options. Like, I want to mix my sports as well.
Oh, it has to be the same
so
sport.
like, let me get like a couple of NBA games there with a couple of college games, or vice versa, or whatever it is. Give me 3-1, whatever it is. Like, just every sporting event, allow me to create my own multi-view. Okay? Baseball starting soon. I'm going to need to keep track of that. We got a lot to get to. My Nashville Predators are red hot. I need to keep track of that. Come on. Need the ability here. Let's go. From 89-1 down to 50-1. Let's go. Don't ask me about that Red Wings ticket, though. Holy smokes. Hey, Derek and company haven't come in since I got those vibes. And I was like, all right, boys, let's say I'm in on the Red Wings.
Not going well?
No, I don't know. I think they've won like one game since.
Oh, it's not ideal.
No, not great.
We got the first four starting. First game on the docket has Wagner against Howard. Your spread, 3 at most spots. We'll call it 3. Consensus 3. I do see 3.5 out there in favor of the Bison. Total of 128. We did have Adam Burke on betting the bracket Sunday. He liked the Bison in this spot. No play for me. I will cheer for my hometown Howard Bison in this spot, but no play. JVT, anything on this game?
No, I would agree with that, though. Let's go with Howard because Adam's a really smart guy, and I agree with him.
All right. Colorado State UVA, the nightcap, 9:10 Eastern or so. Total 121, spread 2.5. It's getting juiced at DraftKings. JVT, you like the favorite.
Yep, Rams, let's go. I don't know what they do. You know everything, but no, I don't know what they say. Yeah, there we go. Just like animal noises. Give me a Colorado State year. Yep, laid 2 with them. I think it's playable 2.5. I think Virginia, we know about their offense. Colorado State, very underrated defensive team, and with the higher floor on offense, with a legitimate player at the point of attack in Isaiah Stevens and some good supporting cast, I think Colorado State wins, covers, and moves on. I got to double check. I pause because I also think that maybe wow, that's terrifying.
Yikes, please never do that again.
Yeah, that was kind of terrifying. Reminded me of maybe like one of them dying or something like that. Didn't really like it. Yes, I did. Just wanted to double check on my official VSiN bracket. At Colorado State moving on to the round of 32.
Ooh, all right.
It ends there, though.
No play for me. I would actually lean Virginia. If we get 3, I might get involved with Virginia. And let's be honest, I'll probably bet something here in this particular game. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not going to have any analysis for you because it doesn't need it. Give me Boston College, plus 3.5. NIT action tonight.
What?
I'll plus...
some analysis. Let's go.
Give me the points. Providence doesn't want to be there. They're at home. Kim English torched analytics for some reason, which makes no sense. But the Big East is unhappy with their draw, the fact that they only got 3 teams in. I think the NIT, more than anything, is a very motivationally charged tournament. And Boston College, man, they were playing really well. They forced overtime in the ACC tournament, made a little run there, did the Eagles. So I think they're a bit surprised to be in the NIT. So I'll put a little pizza money on Boston College, who forced overtime, then didn't get the cover. That was pretty gross against Virginia in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament.
I missed the Kim English thing, so I'm looking at it now like.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense because if you actually went by analytics, like New Mexico would be like a 6 seed, and we could go on and on.
Yeah, so it makes
Auburn would be the 4.
Yeah, he called analytics bull bleep. Okay,
all right.
Whatever you say, buddy. Not really sure how that correlates, but sure. I'll take the points out of principle with Boston College. Lean Virginia, no play there for me. NBA tonight. Pretty light card. You do have 1 play coming up top of the hour.
Yeah, I bet under Houston and Washington. So I bet under 228. It's down to 227. I think now that Kyle Kuzma has been ruled out, I think 227 is still a playable number on the under. I'm laughing because I don't know if you've looked at your lovely Washington Wizards and what's been going on with their roster here. It is not great here for the Washington Wizards. Let's go. Excuse me. All right, sorry, I had to clear my throat. Bilal Coulibaly, done for the season, fractured wrist. Denny Avdia, Marvin Bagley, Tyus Jones, Eugene Amarui, Landry Shamet, all listed as out. Kyle Kuzma ruled out just about 30 minutes ago. There's not a lot of guys with NBA experience playing on this roster right now for the Washington Wizards, who seem to be pretty good of just like, we got less than 20 games. Let's just get out of here, folks. Over the last 2 contests in which they have been missing their big trio, we'll call it, of Kuzma, Avdija, and Jones, averaging just over a point per possession, 1.005. Houston, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, should be able to come in here and shut this team down really without breaking a sweat. And also the way they do it. They limit shots within 4 feet of the basket, fewest points per 100 plays in transition off of live rebounds, things the Wizards like to do. So bet this thing under 228 down to 227. So cool. Point of closing line value. Let's see what happens.
All right, some best bets for you. JVT laying the chalk with Colorado State minus the 2.5. And he's also taking under in Rockets Wizards. I'm getting feisty. Little plus 3.5 with the Screaming Eagles of Boston College. And waiting to see if we get a 3. I might jump in on Virginia. Game doesn't start till the 9 o'clock hour. I don't like to have negative juju out here, though, going head-to-head. By the way, champion of the conference tournament competition.
Oh, yeah. I got 2 home.
Yeah, 2 of them. You had UConn, which was a very wise pick. I won money on that, so I was cool with that. And then you had Illinois.
That's right. Touch and go there for a little bit with the Illini.
Yes, they were able to get it home. What
do I win?
I had a big fat 0 on that one. I don't know what you win. We have our.
Yeah, that's a good point. Britton brings up. I win, and I was still in the red. So, what do I get? Come on.
I lost. Well, metaphorically, 6 units. All right. So producer Britton, you have created a randomizer on using AI as we are just going to randomly select games throughout the show when we have a dull moment.
Not comfortable here.
No?
Another thing, technology is stealing the job of a human.
All right. I just wanted producer Britton back there with a big spinning wheel. Just go tick, tick, tick.
Yeah,
tick,
right?
tick,
Like
tick,
make
tick,
somebody
tick,
else
tick,
just
tick,
pull names out of a hat or something.
Tick, 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 tick. All right. Well,
is it Grok? Did you do it with Grok?
Let's get our first randomized matchup that we are going to break down, and we are going to get Creighton versus Akron. So we are headed to the Midwest region, the 3-seed Creighton against the 14-seed Akron. John Gross, the head coach of Akron, is very good against the spread in the NCAA tournament. Let me double check. I believe he is undefeated ATS. He is 7-1 ATS in the NCAA tournament, the head coach of Akron. So a little note there for John Gross. You actually wrote up the Mid-American Conference for the conference tournament for our VSiN.com JVT. So Akron against Creighton. Creighton, a very efficient team, could shoot the 3 well, doesn't foul, doesn't really make mistakes. They're going to make their free throws. Tends to lean more towards that upset proof, but could this game be close? 12.5 the spread.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be pretty interesting because both are pretty similar in terms of tempo, right? They'll both be pretty slow, so you won't get a ton here. And so that cuts down, of course, into the possession. So we talk about variance. The problem is with a team like Akron is they don't shoot the ball well. They're not a good three-point shooting team, and that's kind of the problem. In terms of three-point shooting in conference play, 33.2%. So you're not going to be able to create that variance as much as you would like. Like part of the equation should be that you should shoot the ball pretty well. And the other end is Creighton actually does shoot the ball very well, as we kind of know here. So what I think it's going to be Creighton, who wins this, moves on, is going to have a chance at covering this. I think of the two, I'd rather be on the side of the Blue Jays because you just have that edge from beyond the arc that Akron just does not possess. Now, it's going to be pretty fascinating is Akron is actually one of the best perimeter defenses by opponent shooting in the country. However, Tim, what sticks out when you look at the MAC is that you had, you had 6 teams that shot 33% or worse from beyond the arc in conference play. So are you a really good perimeter defense, or did you play a vast majority of your games against bad shooting teams? We think that Creighton's still going to be able to have some success here. So I think it's going to be Creighton that moves on. Obviously not going out on a limb there, but I think I'd also rather lay it here with the Blue Jays.
Name to know if you're looking for the Akron Zips. Enrique Freeman, he's been there for 5 years. He's their best player, 6'7" forward. Solid player. Ali was at Akron, left to go to Butler for 1 year, came back. So those are their 2 best players. A solid squad. But yeah, I would agree. Creighton, not a bet that I have, but I think Creighton should move on and has the potential certainly to come out of the bottom portion of that bracket. And I've heard some people think that they can make a run to the Final Four. All right, more randomizers and more random games to get to. But up next, as we continue the Best Bets portion of the program, we'll talk about our bets that we gave out in the March Mania Guide.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
There's never been a better time to have skin in the game with DraftKings Sportsbook because right now we have a VSiN exclusive offer for new DraftKings customers. You can earn a $500 bonus bet for every $1,000 you wager. You can earn up to $2,500 worth of bonus bets in your first 3 days on DraftKings. Don't wait. Download the app now. Use code PRIME when you sign up. Earn a $500 bonus bet for every $1,000 you wager right now.
We are underway, baby. Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba-da-da-da-da. I don't know if I'm allowed to go that much further. Maybe copyright issues. But Howard, Wagner, NCAA tournament underway. The first 4, the Howard Bison have a commanding 6-5 lead over Wagner with 17.5 minutes to go in the opening frame. Winner plays North Carolina on Thursday, and that game will be taking place at 2:45 Eastern in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Howard and Bison will keep you updated on that game. No bets between the two of us on this particular game. We will get to a little confidence competition for those who recall from the football season. We have 5 games. We have a big dog. We'll get through that in the final hour of the show. But let's get to some of our best bets, JVT. You and I were on the air Sunday night, breaking it down. A couple games immediately jumped off the page to us. So we wrote up plays for our March Mania guide, which is available, vsin.com/subscribe right now. A lot of folks contributing to that. Shouts to our guy Adam Burke for busting his butt on that. Some really good trends as well, courtesy of Steve Makinen. We will go through some of those trends throughout the show. But let's go back and forth a little bit here. Give us one of your plays and why you were on that side for the first round bet.
Yeah, so we'll go with the one that I know that we don't share. At least I believe we don't. Oakland, I took 13.5. There's 4 teams out there, so obviously worth playing it there. As we've kind of hit on a couple of times, and I'm sure you've heard throughout the network, but one of the things, or part of the parameters that I like for teams are slow pace, efficient offense. Oakland hits both of those notes. Oakland's a pretty slow team, 66.7 possessions per game, but over 40% of their attempts come from beyond the arc, and they shoot about 35%. So you shoot at a decent clip on a high volume of threes. You cut the possessions down, should be able to slow this thing down. By the way, they shot better in horizon play, actually 36.3%. So I think when you put those two things together against the Kentucky team that, as we have seen, has had its issues on defense throughout this season, I think that at least, at the very least, keeps you inside of this number. I do think, as we talked about before, right, that playing that style of basketball, high variance, low possessions, that gives you a better shot at pulling off an upset. And so Oakland, I think, could be one of those teams on a big list of teams that could pull it off as a double-digit seed. But I think that specifically allows you to stay inside of this number. So Oakland plus 13.5 for me.
All right, I'll give you one. Don't love laying the chalk, but this was a spot that very much intrigued me. So going back to conference tournament week, I bet Lehigh to win the Patriot League, and they went up to Hamilton, New York in the championship game, and they got smashed. Now, that said, Colgate is a team that I think people have become familiar with the name, JVT, over the years. They have been in the NCAA tournament, I believe, the last 4 NCAA tournaments. 2019, they played Tennessee. 2021, they played Arkansas. 2022, they played Wisconsin. And then just a year ago in the first round, they played Texas. The difference between this year's Colgate and the previous installments, this one is not very good offensively, which is, interesting. You think back to last year, 43rd in offensive efficiency. 2022, a team that covered against Wisconsin, 78th. And then in 2021, they finished 53rd. Go back to 2019, they were 60th. This year, they are a team that is in the 200s in adjusted offensive efficiency, and I just don't think this is a team that has the athletes to be able to go toe-to-toe with Baylor. And you look at what they've done so far this year, JVT, Colgate, against some of the better competition. They played Arizona, they lost by 27. They played Illinois, they lost by 17. So when they've tried to punch up in class this year, hasn't worked out all that well. Patriot League is relatively down. I think Colgate, best team in that conference, no doubt. They proved it. I think Baylor takes care of business. I laid a big number here. Laid the 13.5 with Baylor in the first round against Colgate. That is the 3-14 matchup in the West region.
Yep. All right, so we'll go and we'll push back here a little bit on the market. It's something we've talked about quite a bit, but Florida Atlantic opened up as a 2-point underdog, then swung all the way up to as high as 3 as we were looking at on Sunday. It's come back down a little bit. We're at 2.5 here. Northwestern money line here for me against Florida Atlantic to move on. I think when you look at this, as we have kind of noted, the market's been so high on Florida Atlantic all season long, and it's led to a team that's been a little overvalued, 16-17 against the spread for the season for the Owls. And I think Boo Buie is a perfectly capable player. It's been thrown out there like, well, can he sustain? Yeah, of course. I think over the course of an entire tournament, that's probably not going to be something that's sustainable. But in a one-off against what seems to be one of the more overvalued teams in the field at this point in Florida Atlantic, I think that's something where I'll buy in on what the original numbers were here. That Northwestern, that was originally favored, now catching 2.5, in a market that seems really like Florida Atlantic, but has been a little too high on them throughout the season. So I'll push back a little bit. Give me the Wildcats outright.
All right. For a second straight year, it looks like this will be another popular team to pull the quote, upset per the seed line, except this year they're a favorite. Last year they closed as a 2.5-point dog, and that would be the Drake Bulldogs from the Missouri Valley Conference. A lot of notoriety this year for Indiana State, rightfully so. They had a tremendous season, ultimately miss out on the NCAA tournament. They're headed to the NIT where they'll be the 1 seed. But Drake is better this year than they were last year, and it's proven in the seed, it's proven in the metrics. You look at how this team has played the majority of the year, and this is a very, very quality basketball team, and they're led by a future pro in Tucker DeVries. And I bet them last year. Producer Britton was driving me to the airport that Friday night when they were playing Miami. They had a 7-point lead with 5 minutes to go, and they got outscored 17-1 down the stretch and ultimately lost to Miami as that 2.5-point dog. But you see a flip of favorites here. Washington State, what Kyle Smith and company have done this year is commendable, but I think down the stretch you started to see them get exposed just a little bit down the stretch here, JVT. So I look at Drake, Tucker DeVries in that NCAA tournament game just a year ago, 1 of 13 from the field, had a career-low 3 points. He's upped his points per game, 3 points this year. He's averaging 21.5 points per game, over 6.5 rebounds per game. He's doing a little bit of everything for Drake. So I think Drake wins this game, and I think Drake has the potential to give a scare to Iowa State in the second round. So shortest money line that's out there, because we have seen a flip of favorites in this spot. Minus 130 is available. I think there might even be some cheaper money lines, but minus 130 on Drake, the way that I would go here.
Yeah. So I'll go to one that I know that we don't share either, because I know we share, I think, 1 or 2. I like 14 with Marquette against Western Kentucky. I was kind of surprised. We saw this as high as 16.5. Marquette pushed this back. I think maybe there was a thought that Kolek wasn't going to play. I mean, he's clearly going to play. It's every indication that he's going to be fine. I don't think there's really any worry about working him back into the lineup. I think the guy's going to be pretty comfortable as the team's second leading scorer. The other thing that really sticks out about this matchup is Marquette, brilliant at forcing turnovers, top 20-ish in the country, 21st to be exact in defensive turnover rate. Western Kentucky, 266th in the country in offensive turnover rate. So I'm going to get the second leading scorer back. I'm going to get a Western Kentucky team that turns the ball over at a high clip against a Marquette team that thrives on forcing those turnovers and turning them into easy buckets. I think it's a pretty good matchup here. So, and we're starting to see the buyback a little bit. Like 14.5 seems to now be the consensus number. Got to as low as 14 the other day. So I think we'll see that push back here a little bit farther. But yeah, give me Marquette. I think Kolek's going to play. I think it's a good matchup for him.
All right. The other write-up I had in our guide is, I believe, a common play between the two of us. You talked about Colorado State tonight. You like Colorado State. There's a couple of the Mountain West teams. I know New Mexico is an intriguing one that we can certainly talk about, them in their first-round matchup against Clemson. But I'm going to fade San Diego State. This is a team that has been overvalued a good chunk of the year. You and I were waiting for that first-round matchup. Who would they play? And they get slotted against UAB. UAB, the metrics don't love them, north of 100 right now in KenPom and some of the advanced metrics there, but this is a team that's been playing exceptionally well down the stretch here, and I think this spot for UAB, the way that they've been playing lately, when you look at how they like to attack the offensive glass, they struggle defensively. They're 202nd defensive efficiency, but is San Diego State a team that can take advantage of that? I don't love their guard play. Jaden Ledee is an absolute monster. Could be a trouble for UAB down low. But you look at the last 5 games for the Blazers, how well they've been playing, a second-round win in comfortable fashion over South Florida. I think this team seems to be hitting their stride here for the most part. And you look at a San Diego State team, offensive efficiency since January 13th, the last 2 months of the season, sitting at 89th nationally. I think UAB's got a chance to win this game. I'll certainly happily take the 7.
Yep. We're in agreement, because that was the other bet that I had made here, too. UAB plus the points against the San Diego State squad that has covered 1 of their last 5 games.
All right, those were some of our best bets in our March Madness guide. We'll get to our confidence picks from the East and the West region in the third hour of the program. But coming up on the other side, we break down Marvin Harrison Jr. with Mike Sanford. Is there a chance that Malik Neighbors goes ahead of him?